Hello, everyone. We're here for Sambai Speaks. We are here with some new friends who are going to be our friends for life. And Uz and I are here to talk about Sambai. And we've been working really hard to build relationships in our new community. We're pretty established with our community in the US, but we've been trying to go across the pond and we made some friends in the UK. But now we really, really want to build our relationships on the continent. And so I recently was in Johannesburg and met these amazing, amazing advocates there who are doing a phenomenal work in their communities. And so we brought them on our show to talk about it because this is going to be such a big part of Sambai. We're really trying to build kind of boots on the ground in all the cities where our sites are going to be. And after I left you guys, and we'll talk about it, we spent the next couple of days visiting some of the sites in Pretoria specifically and going to the hospitals there to really understand sort of what's going to happen in South Africa. So we're happy to meet you guys and happy to have you here. So let's start with some introductions. So who are you, Zodwa? And tell people who you are.
Okay, no, thank you. Thank you so much, Ricky and Uzo, for inviting us to be part of this discussion. So my name is Zodwa Sithole. I work for CANSA Association of South Africa as the head of advocacy.
Sounds very, very impressive. But can you talk a little bit about what CANSA does? Because people aren't, just so people know.
So we've got different, if I can put it this way, the different departments. So okay. So as CANSA, CANSA has, maybe I must start by saying that, as I've just said, that I'm the head of advocacy. So CANSA has made advocacy the key priority of the organizations in terms of cancer control, cancer prevention, education, treatment, care, and support. So what we do as CANSA, as an organization, we've got research programs. We have also health programs and care and support to those affected by cancer, and also the advocacy role, which is my role. And our main focus is to educate and lower the cancer risk in our country. Right. and promote health and awareness and offer care and support to all that to cancer survivors and their loved ones. So in a nutshell, this is what my organization is doing.
Right. So the prevention side, the research side, but then also providing support services.
Yes. Yeah. And just to point to highlight that we as Cancer Association, we don't give treatment. We don't.
Right.
We don't.
Right.
Yes.
So it's not medical, but you provide all the sort of comfort stuff for people.
And yeah.
Information.
Yes. Like I've mentioned about advocacy role, like we make sure that patients who are maybe been diagnosed with cancer, if they have long waiting period before they start treatment, this way we come in and assist the patients.
Great. That's awesome. Speed up their care. That's awesome. Awesome. So Dr. Molefi, who are you?
Good afternoon. Thank you very much for the invite, Uzo and Ricky. My name is Molefi Molefi. By training, I'm a medical doctor. I've been a general practitioner in Soweto, one of our biggest townships in South Africa. I started JourneySys about 6 or 7 years ago. Really just have been influenced by a desire to help out people that I'd seen to be having problems, particularly people that I'd had an introduction with that had, encountered cancer and related ailments. So JourneySys was already started because I sort of thought one could start an organization that could assist with education and awareness raising, because I felt that was really one of the big difficulties that people are encountering, facing up to and dealing with non-communicable diseases in particular, and cancer being particularly one of them, especially because of all the many barriers, whether they be social barriers, financial barriers, or many other barriers. So that's how we really started. I wasn't really influenced by any personal tragedy or by maybe being befallen by the disease, but that's where this whole thing started. And as we went along, we then began to identify key focal areas where we actually want to give our best shot. And education and awareness raising was still key. So beyond that, support is actually very important. And I particularly, because of my medical background, I particularly always had an interest in survivorship from a clinical perspective. And because survivorship really talks about, that which we want to do, which is to share journeys with people that are affected. So we'd go out into communities, we'd talk to groups of people, whichever way we would access them, would go to churches, go out in shopping areas, and we really would create a vibe that would attract people. So furthermore, we would then go on, and do a whole lot of other work, community work, as part of our, corporate support. Because we would align up with some companies that would allow us to come on board and assist some of their employees. So with survivorship, we do have a dedicated group of some mainly breast cancer ladies that we've been doing quite a lot of work with and for, and focused on essentially, walking the tide with them and helping them to be able to, ultimately improve their outcomes. So that's really the summary. Because as you can hear, we would be looking at the entire a cancer ecosystem, from education, awareness raising, up until seeing some of the people that we're caring for that are coming late in survivorship and perhaps maybe even pre-terminal. So the initiative got invited to by the University of Pretoria to come, and engage possibilities of bringing in an element of advocacy to link up with research, was coming in very handy, because we were also aware that a lot of survivors that we come into contact with, they tend to want to talk about their own personal experiences only in the past. But, a lot of what they do, even when they're trying to raise awareness of other people that they know in the communities, is not really very structured. So we'd always felt that working with the structured organizations within the research space could be able to assist and strengthen our advocacy programs.
That's awesome. That's awesome. It was so great that we attended the PACRI conference, which is the Pan-African Cancer Research Institute, right, in Pretoria. And so that's why I met these lovely brainiac people with big hearts. But I think it was great to be able to combine our advocacy work with the scientists. And I think the scientists were very receptive to the work that, you know, you guys are doing and we're all doing. But you know, Dr. Molefi, I have to say, it's very unusual for an oncologist to like say, okay, I'm busy, but I'm going to go reach out to the community because more people need to be made aware of this disease. So that's extremely commendable. And we're so grateful for that, because most doctors don't take the time and give the energy and the focus to educating patients the way that you are doing it. So thank you for that work. You know, both of you guys are really helping. And I'm, you know, I've now just been to Africa twice, and you can see the need, like we have it here. And you know, I believe in the States that health illiteracy, and I hate those words because it makes it seem like the patient doesn't really know, but they don't. People just don't know about cancer. Why would you, right? Unless it happens to you or somebody that you love. But what they don't know really works against them when they get sick. And it's breeding health inequities because they don't even know what to ask for. And that's why it's so important for us to do our work in our communities, where we are bringing awareness so people understand, you know, the treatments that are available, how to deal with the disease, how to deal with the side effects. And I see such a need where you guys are to even make this more, you know, make this more prominent. So, you know, great for that.
I'm glad you brought up the conference, Dr. Because I wanted to ask both of you how it felt to be involved in a conference like this, and if it like shaped any ideas for you about what you would like to see moving forward in collaboration in more research.
Maybe let me start. You know, for me, I feel that maybe the people, they don't know what the work. Let me just talk about the Cancer Association.
They don't know.
What we are doing. Yeah. We are always saying the people, okay, maybe if I'm looking at it like in our country, South Africa, when you look at the cancer treatment centers, you'll find them in the big cities. You know, patients have to travel miles and miles to go to access cancer treatment. So we as Cancer Association, so going to such a conference, we want people to know the work we are doing, because there's so much work we are doing in supporting patients. So, you know, like we've got a counseling. We can do, you know, like a counseling. We counsel the patients themselves and the families, and we've got the support groups where the patient, they can meet online, you know, like with WhatsApp. As I was saying, that majority of the, you know, our cancer treatment centers are in big cities. No one must be left behind, even those people who are not having access to Wi-Fi, doesn't have money to buy the airtime. So we are there for them. So our communication with them, it's free, and we don't charge them, and we cancel them. And also very important, so sometimes the patient, we will wait not to know what is happening, you know, in terms of starting the treatment, because they wait sometimes for months and months. So we are there for the patient to say, hey, contact us. We will check for you with the treating hospital. You know, you are still waiting for the day to start the treatment. So we will contact the treating, we have built such a good relationship with the treating hospital. They will check, then let us know and communicate with the patient, or themselves, they communicate with the patient. So
why
for me,
are they waiting, Zodwa, because they're afraid, or are they waiting because that's how the appointments work? Like, why are they waiting?
It's a very complicated issue, but sometimes you find that maybe the machines are not working. Maybe patient has to go for radiation or chemotherapy or whatever reason. Or sometimes even the patients themselves, they change the numbers. You find that sometimes the hospital try to contact the patient, and that it's, you know, they cannot communicate. Or sometimes one of the things we as advocates sometimes I really want to highlight here, when a patient has been diagnosed with cancer, there's so much information.
Oh, yeah, so much.
You
And it's
know,
like,
so much information, patient doesn't even know. I've seen patients they said I've got cancer, but I'm not sure what type of cancer I had. First day, patients are so confused, too much information.
Yeah.
What I'm saying, our role as cancer, we support the patient. So they will contact us and say, they said I've got cancer, I don't know what cancer. So we are in between those patients in the hospital and try to find out what was the problem, So I wanted just to say that our services are free to those patients. Yeah, we use 7 South African languages to communicate with the patients.
That's awesome. 7 languages. Wow. That's awesome.
You're the liaison between the patient and the hospital, and you guide them through that process. That's incredible.
That's great. Do you think patients, I mean, I feel like no one really understands cancer till you're in it. You know what I mean? Do you think they understand the essence of time, how important it is to go from not like to being diagnosed and treatment? You think they understand that?
Well, thanks for that. I think from where I'm sitting, the experience that we've had really over the years has been a realization that sometimes we take for granted of what people know. And in fact, there's a whole lot of other people that would always create an impression that they think they know enough, only to find that when you have to try to dig a little bit deeper, you find that there's not so much that it is known. So the level of education, the social economic status are some of the factors at play that would obviously impact what people know. And sometimes when you engage, it's important to be able to dig a little bit deep to sort of find out exactly how much people know, so that you should not assume that you are on par on the same level, only to find that the effect is not good because you're not really penetrating through. Our experience is just that the entire cancer journey is obviously long in all respects, and in all cancers, all the way from the beginning, from the pre-cancer stage up until we get to the terminal phase. Now, what we, for instance, are aware of is that a lot of people, they don't even know sometimes when you ask them, have you been told what type of cancer it is that you've got? And then somebody will just say, well, it's a breast cancer. And then when you want to find out if anybody maybe is aware that there's a whole lot more differentiation. Have they heard of a triple negative? Or have they heard about, just the hormonal in cancer? And you'd find that people haven't. So, and we are well aware it's an evolving science. There's a whole lot more discoveries, but we believe that there's a whole lot that actually needs to be done, beyond just trying to focus on, the entry point about just giving people a bit of information about the signs or symptoms of cancer, but rather to be able to get to understand the different types of cancers that are there, what their cancer is really like, what it is that they could to do. So for that reason, we've tried to implant in the back more of a navigation type of system or program to try to identify or get a sense of, who needs to be engaged how. So that, because everybody has got their own individual story, so it's not the same. Like for instance, of the ladies that I'm saying we've got, in our support groups, mainly people with breast cancer. We've lost over I think a year or so, we lost about 4 ladies, and a lot of them, I think 3 of them were triple negative. And the fact that, they had individual, journeys that impacted on their outcome. And unfortunately, their outcome just got worse over time, and they didn't make it to the end. So it's about trying to find a way of getting through to all the individuals about really understanding that every one of them has got a journey, and then in that journey they need to have a support system, they need to have a partner, they need to have somebody to hold their hand. And it becomes a little bit difficult because then sometimes some of them then begin to look up to you as if you are doing, any doctoring. And as Zodwa is saying, that on their side, they also do not do any treatment. They do, you just want to do, advocacy. Then same as us, we try to underscore what it is that we think needs to be done within that space. But at the same time, we see, this marriage with what we're trying to do, assimilating with what the people are doing in research, as perhaps maybe being a way of opening up how we could actually begin to talk to what really matters in each individual space, so that what we're doing is not as superficial, such that ultimately we could actually be zeroing on the targeted outcome.
Well, I think the challenge with Sambai too, our Cancer Grand Challenge is a research study. So it's basically to understand, when we're studying breast, prostate, and pancreatic cancer, right? And so it's to understand why there are disparities and why Black bodies are not, reacting to treatments and to cancer the way that white people are, right? And so as we approach our patients and your patients, hopefully, we can't tell them that this research is going to help you with your cancer today, because it's not a treatment study. You know what I mean? It's really sort of a future study. So we're going to say, can we have a little bit of your blood draw and take it to put it into the study that's not necessarily going to help you today, but it's going to help your children and the future. So it's this delicate balance, trying to explain our research to them in a way that's going to help them embrace it and say, yeah, I want to be a part of the future of cancer. And that's sort of what, Cancer Grand Challenge is all about.
Can I? Oh, sorry.
From breast cancer, just talking about prostate cancer. We all know prostate cancer is the #1 cancer amongst men in our country. But even then, we all know that there's all sorts of controversies about whether it is the urban men or whether it's the rural men that actually have a worse outcome with prostate cancer, and what are the factors, what are the real factors behind that. So to support what you're saying, in fact, I think from our interest point of view, disparities are key, because getting to understand, for instance, in South Africa, exactly now that prostate cancer, is the #1 cancer. Where is it most predominant, and what are the factors behind? What are the disparities? So what level of intervention could be able to alleviate the impact much more effectively than otherwise? So disparities are really key in this total onslaught.
Great.
No, sorry, before I forget, colleagues, I just want to mention something which is very important that CANSA is doing. So, which is very important. So we do a lot of health education, regarding CANSA. Like the importance of living a healthy lifestyle. We've got even if you can visit our website, we've got so much information.
Yeah, we
you
have,
know,
it's beautiful. It's really, your website has so much information about, prevention and awareness and all the things.
Yes, and the importance of regular screening.
Yes.
And the importance of starting cancer treatment early. So these are the things which are really important for us as an organization. And also, if you visit our website, you'll see we've got more than 300 fact sheets, which talks about different cancers, which is, not, you don't need to be like a medical person. You can also read our fact sheet with a understanding. So this is what our main role, we educate the public, and also very important, we work with other partners, advocating and lobby to educate decision makers in our country on the necessary changes needed to protect the public from non-carcinogen or cancer-causing agents. So this is, I'm just summarizing also the important things that we are doing as an organization.
Zodwa, is there a cancer that CANSA sees more of? A cancer type is, do you guys see a lot of breast like Dr. Molefi's organization?
Okay. So we as CANSA, we work very close with National Cancer Registry. National Cancer Registry in South Africa, they deal with the statistics. So we prioritize our work according to the statistics. The last statistics, it was 2022. If I can share with you the top 5 cancers affecting both male and female. So when you look at male, the top 5 is prostate, colorectal, lung, melanoma, non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. When it comes to women, breast is number 1, followed by cervical cancer, also colorectal, uterine, and melanoma. So wow. It changes, as I've just said, we work very close with National Cancer Registries. So of South Africa, it's the part of the Department of Health. So we work very close with them. So we change our priorities in that part of our health education, depending on what are the top 5 cancers, but for now, this is what these are our top 5 cancers, yes.
Do you do events in the community?
Sorry?
Do you do events in the community? Like, do you have walks or do you?
Yes, we do. That's our main goal, to be visible.
Okay, great.
At that level, at the community level. But because of funding, we are thin on the ground, but we try our best. So we work with many volunteers who are really supporting us at that level. And CANSA's got a volunteer department where we train our volunteers, and they're the one really who are. We do have staff on the ground, but our cancer volunteers are very good in supporting
us
or to be visible at that level. Yes.
That's awesome. And Dr. Molefi, I know you're doing some events in the community, right?
Yeah, Ricky, I think for us, what's actually a bit important for us was to try to strengthen the presence on the ground, and I think we do realize that patient navigation actually brings us closer to the real.
Love that. We love that. That's our magic. That's our magic tool. Our magic wand in the States is navigation. It's just navigation. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So I mean, we especially when it comes to issues of disparities, because in fact, maybe I'll just make an example. I mean, it is well written in all sorts of literature that the breast cancer in particular, if we to take breast cancer as an example, the greater majority of people are discovered late. But we all know that the first world, it is people that are able to afford mammograms and all sorts of screening imagery that are able to pick up. But reality is that on the continent, in many countries, not so many countries can afford to be able to give a large population screening. So as a result, it's not so easy just to get screening to a vast majority of people. We ran a campaign about 2-3 years ago, just trying to see how many women we could get into mammography screening, the primary screening, as well as those that have already been diagnosed and maybe just want to be followed up for checking if they do not complicate or over time. And we found that it's just like it's a drop in the ocean. So we all know that the whole philosophy of or strategy rather of trying to get people to identify the presence of suspicious signs can be able to help to help with improving downstaging. But we know downstaging is not good enough, but it works. So if you're going
What do you mean by
to be
downstaging? What do you mean by downstaging?
Downstaging is the whole concept of saying if we're going to take all 4 main stages of breast cancer, 1 to 4,
Okay.
the greater majority of people that are discovered
at an earlier stage. Yes. Okay. I just heard it called that. Okay. Got it.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I never heard this word.
They would be in the stages of 3 to 4.
Yeah.
But however, if there's all sorts of attempts to ensure that people could be assisted with direct examinations and all of that, they could
more screening.
Be picked up a bit earlier, because it's not practical to get anybody to go and do mammograms. But that's the reality of the disparities that we have in our country. The greater majority of people, even people that are on medical aid, they struggle a lot of times. Sometimes medical aids would be very restrictive about who is going to be allowed. Now, a typical example, we all know it has now become so, well known that there's a whole host of, higher prevalence of breast cancer in younger women than was the case in the past. But up until now, in a lot of quarters, people still encourage only the older women to go and get screening and testing. So already, because of affordability and access to mammograms poses a difficulty. And the fact that it is also accepted by authorities for medical aids, and sometimes, in fact, even by treating doctors, that only older people should get screened if there's anything. And so that's why we now are beginning to get lots and lots of younger women falling out, in between the cracks. And obviously, those are a function of prevailing disparities. I mean, if everybody had equal access to facilities, equal access to resources, or equal access to education, everybody would equally be aware of what it is that they should do to ensure that they can get diagnosed earlier, get treatment earlier, get better, access to treatment facilities, such that ultimately the outcomes improve.
Yeah, it's so important to get it early. I have a friend, one of my best friend's husbands, he has an elevated PSA. And so I asked him this morning, can you give me what was your PSA? It's 14 now.
What's a PSA, Ricky?
So a PSA is the test that you take for prostate cancer, right? It should be given at men. I think men start taking it at 50 in the States, which is really kind of too late here because men are getting it younger. But but it indicates your, your propensity to, or your propensity to get cancer. It's supposed to be under 4, right? The normal is under 4. So his is 14 today, but I said, okay, what was it for the past 4 years? And it's been elevating every year. It started about 4 years ago. So, and he's a very well educated, very well insured, very well-to-do Black man in the US. So, and he has really great health care here. Here we have to pay for it. So you wonder about people who don't have even access to get their PSA tested, right? People who don't even know that you can get tested for it. And that's who we're dealing with in most of the world, right? Like, how do you know about the screening? And that's a lot of the work you're doing with CANSA. How do you educate, right? So,
Nikki, Ricky, can I go back? The navigation, if we can get more funders who can support the navigation. At the moment, we are being funded by American Cancer Society on prostate cancer navigation. So in this small rural area, I mean, we have picked up some, men who are presenting with the symptom, and we have referred. So what I'm saying, the limit is just the funding,
it's funding.
If we
It's always funding, yeah.
If we can get more people, I think navigation, it will be really hard. If we can help get more people to support the navigation programs, that would be really good. Patient can be,
we agree.
Diagnosed earlier enough to, to survive.
We agree, but it's even before the navigators can even reach them. You know what I mean? So, but once they are identified as patients, I think we still have so much awareness homework to do before they even get to a navigator. But once they are diagnosed, the navigator plays such a key role. So,
Nick, sorry to disturb. Even within the hospital, once the patient has been diagnosed, earlier on, we mentioned that there's too much information.
Oh, yeah.
Patients
like,
confused, being
here.
So even at the oncology department, if we can have navigators to say, okay, this is what the doctors explain. This is what you need to do from here, because there's too much information. Patient is still shocked about the diagnosis. And now we have to deal with, okay, you need to go for blood test, you need to go for scan, you need to go, and it's too much. I'm advocating and pleading for the people outside there who can support, the navigation project. That will really help so many patients to be diagnosed early enough.
Do you think that we should, and I'm saying this like, I think we should do this, is even work through navigators to help us do the sampling for Sambai? Like, as we start to talk to patients, do you think it's better for us to approach them with navigators or with other patients, or like, who's the best voice, do you think? Because we're thinking about making a video that we can kind of put on a QR code. So if you have technology, you can look to this link and maybe have a video. You click on a link and you have a video of you guys talking, of me talking, of other advocates talking. Or could it be a navigator talking, saying, this is the kind of research that we're doing. Here's how you understand it. This is why we're doing it. And this is why we would love to have a sample of your blood. I mean, not in those words, but you know what I mean? Which voice do you think is best, a navigator's voice or a patient's voice?
I would prefer like a person navigating, because patients' cancer journey are different. We cannot generalize. This patient can be seen by the oncologist. The oncologist might say, do this and this and this, and these are the tests I need you to do. And maybe with another patient, this would be different. But it helps, Nikki, if there's not enough, navigators or funding. It's better than nothing, just to have that video or a voice over to, whoever can just assist the patient.
What do you think, Dr. Molefi?
Yeah, well, I think navigation is key because it brings you both, down to where where it really hurts, if you know what I mean. If you're going to have people that, or maybe a service that is dedicated on ensuring that people can just be taught to understand their disease, that is a key intervention, because you are then going to help somebody to be able to overcome particular challenges through that. If you're sooner going to identify that somebody has got a problem because every time they got to travel 300 kilometers away to go, for an oncology run up, they don't quite know what's going to happen to them, where they're going to stay, whether they're going to get radiation therapy when they get there, whether the machines work at all, and those are the same little things. However, they are the things that really matter. I can make an example here in Johannesburg. In the public sector, one of the public hospitals, or several of the public hospitals that are giving people radiation therapy. Sometimes they're treating very elderly people that come from miles and miles away from the hospital. So if the machine runs down, and they don't quite know when this machine is going to be back on again, and every time they've got to come, for up, it means they've got to get taxi fare, and it's not cheap to have to be traveling, changing taxis and all of that to ultimately be able to get to the department to go access your therapy. It seems like a little thing that people have not been told adequately or in time. So just having a communication program of some sort to ensure that people that are being treated are being followed up accordingly. That's part of what we term, holding the patient's hand, walking with the patient, talking to the patients with what really matters and seems very minute. So that's why I was then saying that, navigation is key in all respects. But the one thing that I'd like to underscore, taking classically, maybe like breast cancer, as I was saying earlier, because breast cancer, there's been a whole lot more therapeutic advancements. And I think, if there's some technological apparatus that is there to assist in helping to hold, a patient's hand, getting every one of these patients, let's say even survivors, even those that have been on therapy already, make them aware that there's some of them where the disease could come back, and there's some of them that could complicate and it gets worse, and ensure that you could be able to reach out to the patient. The other time there was this patient that she all of a sudden started complicating. She went to hospital. She had already been treated for years in one of the big hospitals, and then she started complicating. And then I said, "Why don't you go back to hospital?" Which she eventually did. Once she got to hospital, she was just told to go back home and come back, when it's her appointment date. And she got worse, and we literally pushed her to go back. We almost wanted to go carry her back to hospital. And guess what happened? 3-4 days later, after she was eventually taken back into hospital, she died. So now this comes out of a population of people that know that they have been treated for breast cancer, they've had a mastectomy, they've had chemo or what have you, and the thing is all done. Now they don't quite know what to expect, what the road can be, what the rate can show. So that's the kind of level of engagement that we're trying to grow our kind of interaction, with the people that we're caring for, both pre-cancer as well as those that have been treated. So partnering with you guys on that front would be Oh, a
Excellent.
godsend. It would be an absolute godsend.
Yeah. Are you guys working with churches?
Ricky, sorry, can I just come in before we
Yeah,
respond
yeah.
to your question? Can I follow up from Dr. Molefi, because he was talking about treatment, radiation. You remember earlier on, I mentioned that our cancer treatment centers, you find them in big cities.
Yeah.
So you find that the patient has to come for radiation, and it's a 6 weeks treatment. They don't have money to book the hotels or B&B.
And they have to come
So-
every day. They have to come every day for 6
No, so this is also another work cancer is doing. So we've got what you call care homes. So those patients who are coming from far, so we accommodate them, for the
That's
period of
awesome.
6
That's
weeks.
awesome. That's awesome.
And we give them 3 meals a day. And we even transport them from our care homes to the treatment centers. And it's, they don't have money. Majority of them are not working. So we've got even the care home for the children, a little baby, 3-year-old. So we even accommodate the caregivers or the parents if the child is coming for maybe radiation or whatever. So that's the challenge we are having. But as cancer, we try our best, to support those patients so that they won't default on their treatment. Thank you.
That's really great. But that also could be a place where we could reach out and educate patients about Sambai, maybe at some of your care homes. So let's talk about that. We'll put that on our list. I know in the States, the American Cancer Society has a similar thing called Hope Lodges. And
It will be.
cities where
The problem is time difference, I think.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, but we make a plan. Yes.
Yeah, that would be good. That would be good. So do you guys reach out to churches at all? Do you partner with any churches?
Yes, we do. We do work with the churches. Yeah. Even our care homes, we do have people coming to request to pray for the patient. I mean, spirituality is the part of caring for cancer patients.
Oh, yeah.
So we cannot.
God is good. God is with us. Everyone, right? So, but that's good. That's another outlet.
And we respect the patient's belief.
Yes.
When we look at palliative care, we don't force our belief, our religion. So
Okay.
patient guide us, what he or she wants. Yes, yeah.
You listen to them, yeah. Yeah. 2 ears, 1 mouth, right? God gave us 2 ears, 1 mouth for a reason, right?
We've always found it easy to work with churches more because it doesn't become too difficult to sort of have to get a extra permission to have to go out and reach out to people, particularly if it's just on an education drive. I mean, we've been so very many churches where we sit out there and set up maybe on their wellness days and make them aware of key things like signs and symptoms of cancers, and knowing what to do or what not to do, that is preventative, eating healthily, all of those kind of things. But
It's
I
kind of
think
a safe environment for talking about it, It's kind of a safe environment.
it offers a huge opportunity to be able to have immediate access,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
it's also they're very easy then to begin to go beyond that. We've partnered with one church. There was also one of the big clinic of the big corporate organizations that have got a whole lot of chain of pharmacies throughout the country that were there, and we're partnering together just to go put out there just measures to get to talk to people. And when people open up and they find it so very easy to reach out about what we normally would take for granted. So I think mass scale type of platforms like those to get to talk to
That's great. A
people out
great
there
education
are
platform.
quite, yeah. But then, of course, you need to have enough resources and, to have enough volunteers and people that can be able to run on the ground, to run those typical wellness days. Yeah, I think it is, a key strategy to be able to penetrate into and then sometimes going into homes, okay, not the kind of homes that Zodwa is talking about, but in this case, you get a lot of people that are just living in homes, where it's a large residential establishment where you get a lot of people that essentially destitute or older, and they're really just being cared for. It's in a home environment, and reaching out to them there. There's such a whole lot that is done there because it's not everybody that could actually easily just go out to a local clinic. So there is plenty of work out there. I guess there's no one entity that can be able to do everything, even with all the resources around. But I think with structured programs, particularly, with specific targeted outcomes, there's a lot that could be done. But for us, hopefully, we do think we could be able to capacitate even better on what we're trying to build on the navigation front, one, and we're hoping that this new breeze of collaboration with scientists and researchers and academics that might also yield good outcomes. We found, like, for instance, after that conference that we were all at, there has been quite a bit of follow-up with some academics that actually want that we should talk more about perhaps going to their hospitals as to go find a way of fitting in with their ward rounds and all the clinical work that they're doing, such that we could actually be able to put in through and strengthen the advocacy to enhance what it is that they're doing. So plenty of opportunities that seem to be there. I guess it's a question of prioritization on the basis of what is most important and what resources allow. And
what a successful play. Yeah.
No,
All right, so we're going to come back to you. Yeah, go ahead, Uzo.
I was just going to say in advocacy, and you mentioned so much, but you still felt like there's so much we're not doing, and I think that's what it always feels like. There's always so much more we could be doing, but I love the connection to places of worship because so many people go to their pastor or their priest first. They might be the first person when they get a diagnosis that they go to, and just kind of equipping that pastor or priest or whoever it is in that place of worship with some information about cancer, kind of giving them the basics education, and then providing the resource of your organization so that they can continue to reach out and receive support. It's so crucial. So I love that connection. And I also thought about going into, as you said, going into homes, like getting into a village or a compound, because there are so many generations there who are probably sitting with disease and have no idea. So like being able to reach a village where there's several grandfathers and grandmothers there and aunts and uncles, and being able to touch that entire family is just so impactful. It's great.
Absolutely. Yeah. No, I think we would embrace, I guess, maybe, any commonality that could enhance an ability and capabilities to be able to extend. We've been trying to find, the best technological apparatus that we think could actually assist us to reach out, because we see that as actually being perhaps maybe a way of being able to overcome, barriers. Like, for instance, I mean, we're aware of some local clinics where patients go to want to get assistance. But when they get close to the clinic, they just chicken out. they can't go further because they're scared of approaching nurses or being
scared, yeah.
scolded by sounding out of 10 or something. So if there's a way in which patients could communicate with the clinics and be able to, report some of the symptoms, and it could actually make it a little bit more streamlined such that when they do get there, they do get seen. Ultimately, I think it could actually, bring about very, very a big outcome. So we look at navigation holistically in all the way from, as I said, from pre-cancer all the way till we get through to the end of survivorship. And we think about the one thing that can put it all together is technology.
Yeah. If I can I just, sorry, thanks, Dr. Molefi, can I come in? I always say that this is what we are advocating for now, that we mustn't wait for the patients to come to the health facilities. There need to be education at the community level. The community care workers who are working.
Where they live, in their homes, where they live.
So this is what we are doing as CANSA now. Like with those top 5 cancers. So we are advocating that cancer should be on the screening tool if the community healthcare workers going out to the community. If maybe an elderly man or a man complaining that, I don't sleep at night. I go to the toilet. I don't know how often, then it's a drop. It should ring a bell to that caregiver before the patient goes and report to the clinic. The caregiver or community health caregiver should say, you need to go to the clinic. An elderly woman who has menopause, if maybe an old lady say, I've started to bleed after menopause, it should be, that's why I'm saying, Dr. Molefi, thank you for what we have just raised that, but let's go down to the community. We mustn't wait for them, to come to the clinic. Yeah. So if we can have that education and, yeah.
Because it's often too late once they reach you, right? So yeah, being proactive, absolutely.
Can I ask if you have specific programs that I know, in fact, even though America is all, it's not all urban. You still have some, rural areas out there. And from the bit of discussion that we had when you're down here, Ricky, you did tell me that you still do a bit of work even out in some of your rural areas. That do you have programs that are structured to do more rural or community work that perhaps maybe we could, draw from, and perhaps find a way of structuring a collaboration around specifically looking at a more community-based kind of stuff, or not? Is it mainly your clientele mainly in the urban areas?
Well, I think we really try to be everywhere that we can, and as you guys said, and I just said as well, you always feel like you want to do more. So we definitely try to be in those rural areas because those are often the patients that need it the most, right? So
they have the least access and the least resources. Yeah.
Dr. Molefi, thank you so much for that question. I think Dr. Molefi has just shared with you guys what, he's doing. And I've shared with you, I can give you maybe some written document, and see, what we are doing. So do you see areas where we can partner, what Dr. Molefi has presented and what I also was sharing with you, where we can learn from each other. We can learn from you, or also maybe, though as Dr. Molefi has said, that maybe you don't have rural areas, your line of communication, you've got one language, it's English, so how can we learn from each other?
Oh,
which
we
areas.
have so much more work to do, girl. You have no idea.
Yeah, I think maintaining connection is how we
Yeah.
continue to learn. It just happens naturally. But as far as Sambai goes, we can't reach your communities properly. We can't properly represent your communities, your areas, the languages you speak without you. So you being a part of this and doing things like being on this series with us is helping us. That's our partnership there and reaching your community and
Thank
help.
And also what we really, I don't know, Dr. Molefi, I'm sure you'll agree with me. Your videos are amazing, amazing. What you presented, Ricky, it's the conference, those lovely videos. Maybe those are the things which we can check whether maybe they can be useful for us.
Yeah,
as
you can have them, they're all on our website for free, but we're gonna make a new video for Sambai. So so we're gonna come back to you for some input on that because we want to show, some African representation in our video. So we're gonna make more videos for that. So that's our next project. So sit tight, but I think we're a little out of time. So thank you so much for your time today. Thank you so much for your insight. Thank you so much for the work that you do. And we have much more work to do together. And we are going to come back to you very soon. And then we'll bring you back on the show after we do some of this work and say, look what we did.
Yeah.
Look what we did. All right. So we're so grateful for you to be our friends and in our family. Once you're in our family, you're stuck with us. So you're stuck.